here we are. Welcome. You just got the notification for this video, and you're here because we're here to talk about Sega and Microsoft. Now first, if you're new to this channel, definitely consider subscribing. I talk about gaming in terms of old games that come into relevance for today and classic just video game conversations, especially regards to Shenmue, which is my favorite franchise. And to that, you'll notice that my channel has changed from Personal Magnus to Manny Magnus Garcia. When I first created this channel, I created it as a personal account to post whatever types of videos that I wanted. And then whatever video I wanted was meant to be personal, just for me, because I already had a camera channel. So I'm like, oh, let me just post things that are more personal to me. And what ended up to be more personal to me was my video game side. So that gaming side then became my Personal Magnus channel. It was personal, but it was just for me. But it ended up to be for everybody, especially my gaming community. So Manny is my real name. Magnus is my gaming name. When I sign into whatever type of service, whether it's Xbox Live or PlayStation Network, I'm in there as Magnus, and that's been my name for about 20 years now. So that's where I get that name from, and it has a lot of meanings, and we'll dive deeper into that in a different video. But today's video, we're here to talk about some sort of a rant that I've got, just kind of my thoughts on this whole Sega Microsoft deal. Now it's interesting because when it comes to the history of Sega and Microsoft, they have a long history. To me, starts off with, for example, the creation of the Dreamcast. Now, the Dreamcast was created with a version of Windows pre-installed on the systems to make it easy to develop for when it comes to porting PC games onto the Dreamcast, which was awesome. This version of Windows was called Windows CE, and there were a few games, especially first-person shooter titles, that took advantage of the easy portability from Windows to Dreamcast. But unfortunately, that relationship didn't last too long when the Dreamcast was eventually kaput. So Sega then approached Microsoft to say, hey, let's collaborate on your Xbox console so that you can play Dreamcast games on the Xbox, and we think that'll at least give some shelf life to the Dreamcast. Now, as we all know, Xbox did not do that. And in my guess, part of that might be due to the fact that Dreamcast games were written on a 1 GB special GD-ROM, while Microsoft decided to use DVDs for their gaming system. And we're like, you know what, we'll partner with a few games, but we're going to go by our own route on this one. So that's all she wrote. And then Sega, of course, became a third-party developer. And right now they actually specialize in pachinko machines for huge profitability, as well as some pretty good third-party titles that are doing well for Sega. Sega's not doing bad for itself, especially after it got out of the console business. But hardcore fans that were fans from Sega in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s have wanted Sega to jump back into the console space. So when we hear that they're trying to partner up with Microsoft, what does that mean? Are we going to get a new Sega console that's co-branded with Microsoft? Is Microsoft going to buy Sega? All of these conversations have been had amongst the gaming community. But one of my thoughts, and this is where I'm particular when it comes to this thought, is the following, based on the facts that have been released regarding this whole new Sega Microsoft deal. So first, let's talk about what is this deal? Well, it seems that Microsoft and Sega are going to collaborate on this world gaming type of cloud-based service. Now, what this is, there wasn't much detail released on it, but it seems that they're going to collaborate on like a big worldwide game, like some sort of global experience that everyone from Japan all the way to the US will be able to partake in. What that is, haven't the foggiest of clues, but it seems that it's definitely going to be cloud-based, and it's definitely future looking, because it turns out that the seeds that this is planning won't be realized until sometime around the 2026 timeframe, which right now we're barely jumping into 2022. So at least 4+ years for the development of whatever they're working on, which in the gaming industry isn't unheard of, at least lately, because it sometimes takes years for development of a game to go from concept to retail. So that's not unheard of. But what effect will this have? And what is this plan really? Well, my assumptions and my thoughts regarding that actually revolves around the console industry itself. Let me explain, and why this is actually important. Now, Microsoft itself, when it comes to the Xbox Series X, when competing with the PlayStation 5, has unfortunately not been keeping up with the PlayStation sales. And that really affects the install base, but also affects software sales from Microsoft. So I think Microsoft is trying to get a leap ahead when it comes to next generation, even though by 2026 will probably still be an Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 if past history is any indicator. But if you're thinking about what the future holds, many consoles and even Xbox themselves feature cloud gaming as one of the advantages of playing in their system. Xbox does good with their cloud gaming. PlayStation now has done their cloud gaming for a few years. When you look at the future of the industry, one of the things that actually has been a problem recently, and we've all experienced, is console shortages. I mean, I've wanted a PlayStation 5 since launch. I've wanted an Xbox Series X upon launch as well. But here we're almost a year into this next generation console cycle, and many of us that want those consoles still can't get our hands on them. And for those that do own those consoles, are there really that many next generation games that have been released up to this point that you can't already get on previous generation hardware? It's not as much like other years, and it's probably a result of the fact that there have been inventory shortages due to semiconductor shortages and everything and then some, which has caused a ripple effect throughout the entire electronics industry. So if you constantly need a console in order to play the latest games, that'll affect software sales of the console makers. So how do you get around the fact that not everyone can get their hands on the next generation console? Easy. Make a console not a requirement. Let's jump to the future. We can expect that at least within the next few years, broadband internet will be not only faster, but more accessible, especially in rural areas where it's almost impossible to get internet. We're going to progress to a level that internet for everybody is going to be possible. If you have the ability to turn on a television, you'll have the ability to connect to the internet. And that's going to be a reality, in my opinion, sooner rather than later. So imagine you turn it on, you've got incredibly fast internet. And because of that incredibly fast internet, it solves one of the problems that has been a problem for cloud gaming for the longest amount of time, and that's input lag. If you're able not only to have unbelievably fast internet, but create a technology that almost completely eliminates input lag, meaning that you can get from your controller to the server and back to your controller in less than a nanosecond, then we're talking seamless experience. And what's the other problem? Well, it's been a problem that the clarity and the resolution that is displayed on a TV along with the frames per second, whether it's on a TV or monitor, has also been subpar quality. Well, as of today, we're already able to deliver 4K or 8K video streams at really, really high fidelity on computers as of today. And that can translate into either mini set-top boxes or into TVs themselves that can actually take advantage of the next generation of fast internet. So now you've got the perfect setup. You've got fast internet, you completely eliminated input lag, and everything looks incredible. Well, then what's the point of having a console? Well, because you want to have a console that runs your software and have the discs. I don't know if you guys know this by now, but console developers are trying to move away from disc or cartridge or card slot based media because they want to have full control of your software. And though you may not like it, and though you may think that this is kill the gaming industry, if the console makers are moving in one direction, and if you want to play a game, you almost have no choice but to do that. And eventually PC might go that way as well, streaming only. But at least for now, I don't see that happening. But in the future, if they say, hey, our new service where you're going to play the latest and greatest games, everything is cloud-based. And guess what? Hideo Kojima came back to create Metal Gear 6, where he connects the story of Big Boss to that of Solid Snake, and he had full control. And he worked 10 years on this game, and he was doing it behind the scenes. And he got the license from Konami, but no, Konami did not control his input. And it's only available on the Microsoft Sega cloud-based console. Are you telling me you wouldn't want to get it? Especially if you're a Metal Gear fan, you might want to play it. And if they play their cards right, they might do that. But other console developers might do that as well, might just kind of make exclusives to cloud gaming while promising the fact that there's zero input lag and you'll be able to connect. And if they design something like a little console box that lets you play maybe a lower fidelity, a lower graphical version while offline to still be able to play your games and let you download some of that, it'll save them money, and it'll of course change the way you game forever, because again, right now we're dealing with shortages because we need those next generation consoles. It costs us money and it costs the console makers money to do that. Imagine you eliminate that need, and whenever next generation graphics come out, they come out maybe on an annual basis rather than you having to wait until they develop better software. They just say, hey, we upgraded our servers. Now you're able to do a gajillion teraflops of polygons and information, and we've got all this going, where they can do regular updates to their graphics rather than you have to buy another console every 7 to 10 years, which slows down the industry. I'm not saying that Microsoft and Sega are going to do that. I'm just saying that they're setting themselves up, potentially putting themselves in a position where they can be where they need to be when we get to that future where input lag and video fidelity is not an issue anymore. Anyway, I've ranted. All of this came from my head. I've ranted a lot, and I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. Let me know in the comments down below. And it feels good. It feels good. I haven't posted in like a week and a half, and I can't wait to show you guys what I'm doing and what I'm working on. But as always, thank you. Remember, Personal Magnus is now Manny Magnus. And as always, you could make my day if you subscribe today. Almost at 1,000. That's cool. We got to celebrate. Give me some ideas. What should I do for 1,000 when that 1,000th person says, yeah, I'll join the crew? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, like, share, and you can make my day if you subscribe today. This is Magnus, and I'm out. Dreamcast, will it be back? Probably not. That's a dream. See you later.